One. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Delusions of Grandeur. I'm your host, David Stregi, and here in the room with me, I have my friend Boris, all the way from Croatia. How are you
Hi,
doing
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
today? Not too bad. Thanks for coming on with me. I know this week has been kind of hectic getting together on this film, but this film is from 2007 that we're going to go on about, and it is the direct to DVD horror film sequel to the 1999 film House on Haunted Hill. And it is directed by Victor Garcia, and it was by William Massa. And the film stars Amanda Rigetti, Tom Riley, Serena Vincent, and Eric Palladino, among others. So, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to read what IMDb says about this film real fast.
Okay.
So, 8 years after the millionaire Mr. Price rented a Hill House for a macabre birthday party, a team of researchers dares to come in looking for a precious statue, a satanic idol who is believed to possess demonic powers. So, first off, I wanted to ask you um, about the satanic idol because I hear that you actually have a possible rendition of this statue.
Not quite. What I have is not really similar to what we saw in this movie. Yeah, I have a Baphomet statue as one of my Halloween props. Unfortunately, it's not right here at hand. I would like to show it, but yeah, it's not easily accessible now. But what I have is a pretty much ordinary Baphomet statue based on the drawing done by the artist. I'm not sure if I can pronounce his name correctly, Eliphas Levi or something like that. So yeah, that statue I have is one of my Halloween props, but
And
it's
before we get into this film, be that as it may, as far as this Baphomet statue, did it have anything historical about it as much as this film had it telling us?
uh, I'm so I'm sorry I had a sound glitch. Could you please repeat what you said?
Well, this film kind of put it out there that evidently during the Inquisition, there were some cult members that evidently worshipped this statue. Is that somewhat true to your knowledge?
Actually, at one point I was reading about the history of Baphomet, and from what I remember, this is actually not accurate. From what I remember, well, maybe I don't remember every single detail correctly, but from what I remember, Baphomet was actually a false idol that the Knights Templar were accused of worshipping, but like I said, the accusations were false, and there was actually no mythology involving a deity named Baphomet. So, what this
So
movie
the
implies.
idea, the idea is quite possibly based on false information.
Yeah, although on the other hand, like I said before, when the statue was found later on in the movie and we saw what it looked like, it actually didn't look like what we know as Baphomet nowadays. So who knows what uh, how they really imagined this in the movie, but yeah, I personally think it would have made much more sense if they had chosen their own name for this demonic figure in the movie instead of calling it Baphomet.
Almost. But in any case, so uh, first of all, what were your thoughts on this film as a whole? Do you think that this was a relatively decent sequel for this particular adaptation of the story?
Well, actually, yes. From what I read on IMDb and some other websites, I think many people didn't really like this sequel. I didn't look too deeply into why, but I personally did like it. As we know, the first movie is a remake of an older movie, also named House on Haunted Hill, and the remake is much different from the original. It's kind of like set in its own universe, and this sequel expands on that universe. So I personally enjoyed it, and I think it's a good sequel. Yeah.
I think so too. I mean, I didn't think so at first because I was not much of an entire fan of the first remake because I was a fan of the original film. So when they first came out with this, I thought that they were um, read. I know that when you do remakes and reboots and sequels and whatnot, they try to make it more modern. And But over time, after rewatchings of the 1999 version, I realized that they um, tried to make it their own. I mean, it it was a little different, different setting, maybe with the psychiatric ward, and I love the fact that they used Jeffrey Combs. He's kind of an interesting actor. Um, if you love his performance in Reanimator, as I do, you kind of get to know that he loves to play the evil characters and things. So yeah, I enjoyed his performance as the doctor here, the Doctor Vanagut, or that's that I believe is his name.
I think it was Vanacut.
Vanacut. There we go,
Uh,
Vanacut. And in here, they kind of mentioned that at one point in time he was actually a good person, and he started collecting like all like these different arts and whatnot, and he used to do a lot of good things for like humankind or whatnot. So they paint him as like this good person at first, and it wasn't until he acquired this Baphomet statue that
yeah.
he suddenly went. In a sense, they're bringing about the reason why the house on Haunted Hill was haunted. In a sense,
Yeah, and I actually think that's a very interesting addition to the story. Like in the first one, we found out about Dr. Manakat being some psychopathic doctor who was torturing his patients, and they tried to put an end to it, and then it ended in disaster and so on. We never found out why he was doing that, but the story was presented in a way that we kind of didn't even wonder why he was doing it. Like we
well,
assumed he
no,
was just a psycho and that's it.
correct, correct,
Uh,
and he was going after the descendants of the people who had originally killed him. or what not so or what is so that was that was almost like a almost cut and dry, sentiment. I mean, it's a little bit different when there is a reason why, and he was actually possessed by whatever evils were within the statue. But that being said, this particular film takes off kind of where the other one kind of left us. It's apparently 8 years later. And we have the apparently the surviving female who was ultimately someone who um, had taken up the position of the original person invited place, and so she became obsessed with the house, and apparently had gotten in touch with this professor dude. Um, and let's see, his name is Dr. Richard Hammer,
Yeah, yeah.
played by Stephen Pacey, and evidently, Hammer is after this bath. It's like his life study. He's been trying to find it for years, and he knows that it's within the house. So he's started this expedition to go and try to find it. He tries to talk to the sister. Well, the sister comes and realizes that her sister has actually killed herself. Um, and when she gets the news, she takes it rather harshly. Um, and so when she goes and sees her sister's place, there's a very cool part where her sister comes back for a moment as a spirit. And I thought it was it was a jump scare moment.
Yeah, uh, it was one of the scarier moments in the movie, and actually, now when you mention it, I kind of wonder, was it ever explained in the movie how this vision of the undead Sarah happened? Like, was it just a hallucination by her sister, or was it one of those ghosts or something from the house creating this illusion?
Well, I believe that if you had a belief in spirits or something of that nature, where they died is where they will haunt. So to me, I think she was reliving kind of sort of a little bit of an illusion moment of how she killed herself, and this appearance is kind of a warning about her. And I think it kind of leads up to that patient that is helping her later on, um, to find the Baphomet statue, and destroy it, because she's the one who tells her to go, but then she gets kidnapped by Desmond and his crew.
Yeah.
So, um, but she also has this photographer, video camera dude of a boyfriend, um, that evidently she has feelings for. She's a news reporter, so I don't know how they met or whatnot, um, but this film also has a lot of humor in it.
Uh,
A
it,
lot more humor than the original one, don't you think?
well, yeah, actually, there is quite a lot of morbid humor in the sequel, and I have to admit I found it kind of amusing.
So did I. I mean, um, whereas the first film had more sarcastic humor, with the husband and uh, going back and forward at each other with their witty remarks. Um, we had this Kyle character who is a young kid, played by Andrew Lee Potts, and he was an assistant of the Dr. Richard Hammer character, and we also had uh, not Ariel. We had Michelle,
Yeah, yeah.
Michelle, who was another assistant, um, played by Serena Vincent, who evidently has played in not another teen movie, Malcolm in the Middle, things of
Oh,
that nature, and the young woman that we had playing Ariel Wolf, the sister, is played by Amanda Rigetti, who has played in one of my favorite television shows at one point in time, The Mentalist, as Grace Van Pelt. So,
oh, cool.
but uh, we also have Eric Palladino, who plays the other character here, who is in charge of another expedition. Um, Evidently, he considers himself a a rival of the Dr. Richard Hammer, even though he
Oh,
at one point in time been a student of his. But Eric Palladino was in ER, um, for quite some time, um, and I watched that show for a little while, and he played Dave Malushi in the show. Um, he was an entertaining character there, but I'd never seen him in kind of an evil kind of a role. Um, in
oof,
ER, he
yeah.
was more of a person who helped people, and it's interesting. He's in a psychiatric ward
Oh, that's interesting.
compared to a regular hospital. So, but he had quite some lines of humor in the film, don't you think?
Yes, yeah, actually, he had quite several. I probably don't remember them word by word, but yeah, actually, I didn't expect to say this, but I liked his character a lot, although I usually don't like characters like him, let alone real people like him, but he was really funny, and that's why I couldn't help liking him in this movie.
So ultimately, both of these groups of people end up all showing up at the House on Haunted Hill, which is in this psychiatric ward, which is supposedly haunted by Dr. Vandecut, and the ghostly patients that um, he did indeed help in rendering to the other side. So, um, and they're both after the same idol, the Baphomet idol that we aforementioned. Um, what do you think about that initial showing up of the um, at the house, when they both end up meeting? Do you think that Dr. Richard Hammer should have accused her of bringing them to the house?
Well, yes, that was a moment when something started to unfold, when we found out about Michelle being a traitor. Like she was in relationship with Richard Hammer, but she also had a secret affair with Desmond, and in that scene we found out that she betrayed Richard, and yeah.
And Michelle is kind of quote unquote uh, very open about her relationship with him,
Uh,
with
yeah, there
Desmond.
were some funny moments there.
Um, yeah, I mean, to me, she was definitely kind of a sex symbol in the film. Um, there's always that one particular woman who sometimes she's the helpless blonde who also is kind of a slut, but she's not exactly blonde. She seems to actually have some brains, but whose brains she has, I have no idea. But ultimately, um, they are worried about the house going in lockdown because if it does go in lockdown, they will be seriously locked in um, for whatever amount of time. So they eventually go down and they shoot the mechanisms that evidently um, were starting to spin to go into lockdown. So that stopped the mechanism at least for the moment. What did you think about that scene where they went into that the main part and decided to do that?
Whew. Well, I didn't expect it to really make them able to leave the house. And,
Neither did I.
uh,
I mean, I didn't expect them to pull out them damn guns and start shooting the shit out of them. You know, it was.
well, yeah, actually, you wouldn't normally expect that something like that would resolve an issue with a mechanism.
So, of course, this film has one of those has one of them tropes, and that happens in horror films. Um, and though the sister was the first one who died in the film, uh, the uh, the our residential African American is the first one we see that is searching for where the Baphomet idol is, and it appears that he may have found it in the walls,
Oh
and
yeah.
he goes up to the wall, and he ends up touching it, and I love how we get these little previews of what happened to these patients and you
Uh,
know and what Dr. Vanicut actually does. What did you think about this first killing?
well, I felt sorry for the guy for what happened to him. It was really gruesome.
And what did
Uh,
exactly happen? And
well,
ladies and gentlemen, if you don't already know, we're gonna spoil the shit out of this movie. So
oh yeah, yeah, that's true. Uh, mm, from what I remember, something emerged from the wall and grabbed him, and I think it started to pull him in and ripping him apart, if I understood correctly.
well, some hands pulled him through the wall, and his body crumpled to fit.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then
yeah. That was
and then
nasty.
I don't know how this happened. It exploded. So
Yeah, I don't know how it happened either.
I mean,
Probably.
to me, if someone was to be pulled through a tiny little brick hole in the wall to crunch the whole entire body and then suddenly have it explode, it's like, what the fuck? it
Well,
was
yeah.
it was kind of a what the fuck moment. And then the next person that gets it is the Asian chick. What did you think about her character?
Oh, well, actually, I kind of wish she was around longer. She was really good looking, and she had this really sexy scene with those two female ghosts. Well, it was sexy until we saw their real faces. But
Well,
yeah, that was.
her name was Kaleta Rainford. Um, and she's actually not that much older than me. So
Oh,
um,
cool.
she was an actress known for Doctors, The Dumping Ground, and The Smoke. I'm not exactly sure what those were, but she wasn't really in a whole heck of a lot. Um, I mean, she has 17 credits, and she wasn't in a whole lot of movies that I might have known. So, I mean, the last real movie she was in 2014. So, I
Oh,
guess, um, but she was in something called The Seventh Dimension, which was at one point in time called Beacon 77. Um, Never heard of that one. Iron
neither have
Cross
I.
Iron Cross from 2009, and I'm not sure I know that one entirely. So yeah, this is like the only this is like the only one that I know that she was ever in. So she was in something called Unfinished Song, which was originally called Song for Marion. So some of these seem like independent action, and some of them seem just independent in general. So I think the last thing she was in was in one episode of The Dumping Ground, which was in 2016. Um, so she really didn't have much of an acting career after this. I mean, she has
Oh,
somewhat of one, but not making it mainstream. And I guess this is as mainstream as she could have gotten. So, but she played Haru,
mm,
and I like how she was like to Ariel. What are you going to leave without kissing goodbye?
yeah,
Which kind of goes along with her lesbian fantasy of uh,
yeah.
of these two nurses that she ends up somewhat meeting, although she doesn't realize that they are of the undead material.
Uh, yeah, she realizes it when it's kind of too late.
And the thing about these ghosts, these spirits, is they're kind of malevolent spirits. They are a little bit more violent, and they're a little bit more physical. So they are more like um, because they died in the way that they were. They're more like poltergeist spirits in a sense.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
which means that they are spirits that are more violent, can do more on the spiritual level technically, if you're dealing with spirits in movies, there are levels to things that spirits can do. So, um, because these patients died in the most violent ways, that just means that they have that much more energy to give out and can be a little bit more physical. So,
Oh,
what do you think about that aspect? That these spirits are more physical, that they can make things float. They can, like in the water tank when Kyle just disappeared. What do you think about that particular? To me, that part made me feel like they were more zombies than spirits.
well, actually, I wasn't so surprised to see them being able to do those things because I have seen some other movies where ghosts could do similar things, like The Grudge, for example.
The
But
Ring.
oh, The Ring, kind of, but uh, well, yeah, something like that was happening in The Ring, but I
Because
more meant.
even the Americanized Ring, the Ring 2 was done in 2005, 2 years before this. So it's very much. I mean, this looks like a big well kind of thing, you know.
Wow,
Um,
good point. I don't know if you know, but The Ring is one of my favorite horror movies ever.
well, have you ever seen the Japanese version?
Yes, yeah, it's been a while since I watched it, but yeah, back in 2012 and 2013, I was a huge fan of the Ring franchise. I saw each movie multiple times, both American and Japanese. Yeah, I was quite a nerd for that franchise.
Yeah, that franchise spawned. I mean, the thing is, Japanese films often are better than their American counterparts. And I almost wonder if this particular film was somewhat uh, influenced by by the Ring and its counterparts, like The Grudge. I know myself. I still have to see the Ring versus the versus Grudge yet in Japanese. So
Oh, you mean Sadako versus Kayako?
correct.
Uh, yeah, I saw that one.
But in any case, yeah, but that's why I wonder because of that particular scene, and because certain films remind me of this certain psychiatric ward that I know, the Waverly Hills Sanatorium. Um, Now,
Oh,
Waverly Hills Sanitarium was a real psychiatric facility,
oh wow, I didn't know that.
um, and it originally opened in 1910 as a two-story hospital to accommodate 40 to 50 tuberculosis patients.
Oh,
And in the early 1900s, Jefferson County was ravaged by an outbreak of tuberculosis, otherwise known as the White Plague, which
oh,
it prompted the construction of a new hospital. So the original hospital was closed in 1961 due to the antibiotic drug streptomycin that lowered the need for that hospital. Now plans have been developed to convert the sanitarium into a hotel and conference center, but um, there was a lot that supposedly happened at the place during the White Plague epidemic. Um, so, um, but because of the fact that there was a tunnel in the hospital that was used to get rid of the dead. That's why I thought it was kind of interesting that they used a tunnel somewhat
Hmm.
to cremate the bodies of the dead at the time. I mean, did you see that whole tunnel of cremation burners?
Uh, yeah, was it the one where Desmond burned eventually?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
But we're getting ahead of ourselves here. So
Oh, yeah,
um,
sorry.
before that happened, we have Desmond and his crew. They've kind of separated themselves in the groups. He is with Ariel, and Michelle has gone with Richard, and Kyle has gone with one of the muscled other actors, and then the boyfriend. He's supposedly supposed to have stayed outside with the other guy, and that guy he annoyed the fuck out of me because he did not make sure that it was in truth Desmond that had originally called him into the house, and then he didn't stick around. He went and followed shit instead of staying. You know,
Well,
and that's what eventually killed him.
uh, yeah, and that led to a scene which, as you probably remember, reminded me a bit of a scary movie, if
Oh,
you
with
know
the
what I mean.
yeah, I do. And what's interesting is that scary movie spoofs horror films with comedy. If, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know what that franchise is,
Uh, yeah, I do know. I think I watched the first four scary movies, but I don't remember them all very well. I remember the third one the best because it spoofs The Ring, which is, as we mentioned earlier, one of my favorite horror movies.
yeah, we'll have to cover those eventually, but
Oh,
we'll have to get through a few more um, horror films that may have dealt with scary movie first. So, um, uh,
oh, cool.
but in any case, um, oh, what what did you think about the scene where the one guy gets totally torn apart?
You mean this guy Norris who was with Kyle?
Yeah, what did you think about that scene?
Well, I kind of had mixed thoughts about it because at first, when those bed sheets or what they were, when they grabbed him and started to tear him apart, he was yelling for Kyle to help him, and Kyle was just standing and doing nothing. Okay, then he did jump and try to help Norris, and he was pushed away, but. I felt it kind of took him long to even try to do anything. That was my issue with that scene, but otherwise, it was pretty gruesome what happened to that guy.
Oh yeah,
It reminded me of how a certain character in Silent Hill ended.
here he kind of exploded too in the end. So
Uh,
they seem to like to use explosion of body parts uh, uh, in here, don't they?
Yeah.
And
And
to be honest, the lesbian scene with the Asian, when all of a sudden it turned into that mucky, grimy stuff, it
uh,
somewhat reminded me of the shower scene in The Shining.
oh, yeah, that's a good thought. I watched The Shining quite a while ago, but yeah, now that you mentioned it, I remember that scene.
So, in any case, um, but yeah, then of course, because the um, apparently the Baphomet statue was getting to Desmond. Um, he ultimately started to argue with Michelle, thinking that she might have actually been behind some of this stuff because he doesn't believe in the ghosts or anything like that. So everything that seems to be happening seems to be a joke, or one of the other members are trying to, you know, he thinks that that everyone's out to get him, and
Yeah,
tried to
oh,
outbest him in getting the Baphomet statue. And
yeah,
so, what do you
although
think about that argumental scene of his?
well, actually, I wanted to say, I think deep down he was afraid of ghosts because if you remember the scene when Ariel was dragged into that room and then she was found with a stray jacket on, and there was no explanation how she apparently put it on by herself, and then. Desmond kept saying there were no ghosts, but he was still looking with the flashlight to see if there was anything. So I think
Correct,
uh, yeah, I think he was a bit scared of ghosts, and I think he was trying to convince himself that they weren't real. Uh,
correct, correct. He did have that moment with her, and she herself was quite scared from that moment, and I think that's somewhat a kind of where they have a slight bonding moment, but just when you think you'll start to like Desmond, then he pulls a gun on Kyle and like pushes him into that water thing to begin with. So
Yeah, I kind of felt that was unnecessary. Like, unless I missed something, it kind of felt like he did it only in order for the body count to rise up.
well, that's the thing. That's when you start to see him start to be a little bit more evil. Um,
Well, it was said that he was the one who killed
his
Sarah, so
his attitude, um, his attitude was what kind of what started to change from the lighthearted, um, comedy to the more violent and obsessed um, atmosphere of his attitude. So to me, it just digressed over time, and then when it became too late for him to realize that, oh my God, there are spirits in the house or in the place, then it was too late for him, and I kind of did not feel sorry for him in the end. But
mm, no, I think no one felt sorry for him.
well, yeah, I think I felt more sorry for Kyle
Yeah, yeah,
when he got
definitely.
dragged down, because that he was innocent.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, it's interesting to notice how, from what I remember, the ghosts first started to kill Desmond's group. Like it almost felt like they wanted to get rid of the bad guys first.
Well, if you looked at it from a racist point of view,
Uh,
they got rid of the black guy and the Asian first. So,
oh, well, no, I didn't realize that. I only realized they were all with the bad guy.
but that's if you looked at it from that trope, because they could have started out with the white people, but they didn't. So
Well, I wasn't thinking in those terms
neither
actually.
was I when but with the racial things that are going on in these days, I wouldn't be surprised if this would be one of the movies on the chopping block.
Uh, oh, yeah. And now when you mentioned that, there was actually one thing I wanted to say. Like in the first movie, we had two survivors at the end, Sarah and this African American guy named Eddie. And in this movie, we didn't hear anything about him, about his character. Like what happened to him after the end of the first movie. Nothing was said.
No, and that's the thing that's kind of strange because them two seemed like they were hitting it off real well, you know.
Well,
So
yeah.
you could have thought that they could have actually had a relationship after that particular film, since they went through that ordeal together. Or
Indeed.
maybe they didn't have, and there too, not two, but there the African Americans survived. So and they didn't have any other uh, nationalities in the film. So those are polar opposites to me that I see. It's not that I wanted to point out the racist thing, but there is a trope that happens where the black guy dies first sometimes,
Yeah,
and it's
well, like I said, I really wasn't thinking about that.
neither was I when I first saw this, because whenever you watch a horror film, you're there to enjoy it, and the different kill scenes. To me, I thought the different kill scenes were different. I do think the kill scenes worked. I don't think that they were going for the racist angle, but it's just so happened that the black guy ended up being the first to go of the team. Uh,
Mm, well, yeah, it happened in this one, but yeah, since it didn't happen in the first one, I believe they weren't really trying to make it look racist.
no, but it is there, that trope, that sometimes it's a recipe for a horror film, that the um, different nationalities go first, the different colored people, if you get my drift. So
I, yeah, I understand. I just haven't been noticing it much because I'm really not racist and I usually don't think much about people's races. Like,
I try
it's
not to,
just people and
but
that's it.
in today's political standards, it's talked about so much. I can't help but notice like these things as I'm
Mm,
going through these films now, because so many films have entered into this list where um, the Confederate flag, because it was a symbol of the Civil War, and it was in what is that? There's that racing TV show where they crash the cars all the time. Dukes of Hazzard, the television show from the 1970s. because the Confederate flag is on that car. They will not show the episodes that car has on TV because of this race war that's going on.
Oh,
Mary Poppins is on the chopping block.
oh
Um,
boy.
I mean, the list is starting to grow of what they want to destroy in films. Gone with the Wind. That's a classic movie, and that's on the chopping block right now. So they're just doing way too much, trying to destroy history and point out different things in different films, and I'm not sure what's going to be next. So,
Mm,
I
mm,
mean, that's why when Gone with the Wind came out with the thing, being on the chopping block, the Blu-ray started to go out of print because people are afraid that they're just ban it, or we're just going to start our own UK ban list.
who knows?
But in any case, sorry, I, I, I I'm kind of disappointed and ashamed in America today for those reasons. Um,
Um, yeah, that's understandable. I guess I personally wasn't thinking about it so much because, fortunately, nothing like that is happening in my country right now. But yeah, I've heard that it's been really difficult in your country now. So yeah,
well, yeah, I mean they're trying to destroy history itself. I mean it's history. That's the thing. It's in the past. The thing I feel about it. Okay, it's in the past. Now learn from
yeah, I definitely agree.
it. I mean, it happened. Okay, yeah, we enslaved people. Okay, Eh, I get that, but let's move on. Let's move forward. Enough about it. Stop dwelling on it. Let's move forward.
Yeah,
Let's learn from it and try to
yeah,
get along.
yeah.
But
Let's not repeat the same mistakes from
exactly,
history.
and we are, and but that's neither here nor now. Sorry for bringing that shit up.
Oh. It's fine.
But yeah. So after the argument of Michelle and Desmond, we
Oh
have
yeah.
um we have her going off into like this kitchenette area, apparently that it is in the place, and all of a sudden you see behind her all the furniture go up into the air, and then she turns around, looks up, and she's like, "Holy shit! All these furniture are here." And then it starts dropping around her, and then of course you see Dr. Vanicott come in, and he looks up at this big ass metal refrigerator, and he just goes, and
Uh,
the refrigerator
uh,
drops on her what?
on her head. Yeah.
So
uh, That
um,
was a pretty gruesome ending for one of the sexiest characters in the movie.
yeah, she did kind of have a melon splodge there for a moment. So
Uh, yeah.
not 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 exactly not exactly pretty anymore.
Indeed.
But in any case, so after that, Ariel has some various images from this same patient, um, that seems to keep appearing to her, and he shows her where the Baphomet idol is, and he tells her to destroy it. What did you think about this patient that seems to want to help her?
Well, actually, that was interesting. We never got to find out. Well, okay, it was said that the spirits really wanted to be in peace, but the evil wouldn't let them. But we didn't get to find out how this particular spirit apparently managed to say something like this, to say something that would help them stop what's going on. Uh,
Okay. And ultimately, they had to go down into the um, where we somewhat mentioned this before. They meant, but the cremation area, which is this long row, which is a double-sided rows of these big metal ovens that
Yeah, yeah.
that would burn people to incinerators
Mm,
to ashes if you were to stick a dead body or a dead cadaver in them.
uh, yeah.
So, let's see. I'm just trying to see if this particular film tells us where this was filmed. Let's see. Okay. So this particular film is part of the Dark Castle Entertainment stuff with Warner. Uh, so it is part of the Dark Castle um, list of films. Let's see, production. Okay, and this film was mostly filmed in Burgas, Bulgaria, Sofia, Bulgaria, um, New Boyana Film Studios in Sofia, Bulgaria, and in Los Angeles, California. So much of it was filmed in Bulgaria.
Wow, I didn't know that.
So that was interesting. But in any case, um, what did you think about this last these last segments where it appears that when they actually get to the Baphomet statue, what did you think that surrounding substance where it was in the room? It kind of looked like brain matter.
Oh, a good point. Yeah, I didn't actually pay that much attention to that. I was more examining the statue itself because, as you mentioned before, I was thinking about why they would name this demon Baphomet, since knew something about the history of Baphomet, and I saw the inaccuracies in that, so I was more curious to find out what the statue was going to look like, because if it looked like this character that we know as Baphomet nowadays, it really wouldn't have made sense, because the original drawing it was based on didn't even exist in the Middle Ages. But yeah, so I was more paying attention to that.
It didn't surprise me at all that Richard Hammer was more enamored to start to uh, 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 the I thought it was kind of interesting how they had for some reason I just thought of the moment in Aladdin where Abu was looking at the giant jewel and his eyes were enamored to it, and he started to go slowly towards it. It kind of reminded me similar to Richard Hammer. Just his total focus was on the Baphomet statue, and he was almost being possessed until they snapped him out of it. And you know, what did you think about the fight that both her, Ariel, and um, Richard had with Dr. Vanekut or Vanekut?
Well, it was a really interesting scene because from what I understood, it turns out the statue has a lot more influence on people who want it than people who don't want it. Like it managed to almost possess Richard, who wanted it a lot, while it had little to no influence over Ariel, who didn't want it at all. She just wanted to destroy it.
Correct,
And
and she just kept telling him to fight it, fight it. You know, I mean, I know that being possessed by an evil spirit is like tremendous on those who are just enamored to a certain object, but um, one has to wonder, with how smart supposedly the professor was, how very easily his mind was able to be taken over by this.
yeah, although he also kind of snapped out of it fairly easily too.
True, but
Mm.
ultimately, they were able to get it out of the house, and then we saw that moment where it seems like all the patients came around him and tore his fucking shit to pieces before they disappeared. But once it left the house, it seemed like it freed the spirits. What do you think?
Uh, yeah, it did seem like it freed the spirits, but I kind of expected it wouldn't really be the end, as we saw in the post-credit scene in the unrated version of the movie, where the statue is found by some new people, and it's obvious it's going
Did you say
to
new or nude?
you, you. Oh my.
But yeah, so apparently, after the end credits hit on the unrated version, see the rated version has 100 has an hour and 19 minutes, and the unrated version has an hour and 21 minutes, and that 1 minute or so that's after the credits has this couple running down a beach. They're obviously about to make love. She gets a little topless, so get to see a little titty, and she realizes as they roll in the sand that she rolled on top of something. So they go in and investigate it, and he says something like, "I bet you this thing is worth a little bit of money," and that that particular thing has been done before, honestly, though.
Mm,
Um,
yeah, it
I
was.
specifically remember in Jumanji when a similar thing happened where they threw it in the water, the river, or lake or ocean or whatnot, and it ended up on a beach, and two kids uh, ended up uh, finding it, and I think it was in Egypt or something like that. And they're like, "What's this?" And you hear the jungle drums, doom 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 doom. Something like that. So to me, the trope has been done before, so it's nothing really all that new. But it is interesting that they set it up for a possible sequel, uh,
Oh,
which
yeah,
never happened.
yeah, unfortunately.
But as far as the Jumanji, we got an animated series out of that. So, and then of course, we got the smoldering of Dwayne Johnson for the next two.
Yeah.
But in any case, let's talk about favorite scenes. Did you have a favorite scene in here?
Whew, well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure I had a particularly favorite scene, but I did enjoy some particular dialogues throughout the movie and all the dark humor there was in it. uh,
I did enjoy the humor in it. I mean, there was a moment where Kyle was like, "Hey, I know you from somewhere, don't I?"
uh,
And he's like, "Uh, "Oh yeah, you're the such and such and such," and he's like, "Yeah, man, those were the good old days. Come here, mate." And then he's like, "Yeah, you were a fucking pussy,
yeah, that made it kind of sad that they both died.
and you fight like a girl."
Yeah. Uh, yeah, there was really a lot of good humor in the movie. Or earlier when they before they entered the house and Desmond told Paul not to try to do anything because Samuel would kill him, and he said, "Right, Samuel," and Samuel said, "Oh, nonchalantly, yeah, yeah, I'll kill you." That
Was
that
that one of
was
your favorite ones?
uh, well, it was one of the funnier scenes, and uh, another funny one, for example, was when they returned to the room where Norris was killed, and Desmond was like, "Where the hell is Norris?" And someone, I'm not sure, was it Michelle or who said
It
it?
was Ariel who said it. She was like, "I think you're stepping in him."
Yeah, 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 that. Yeah, that was really morbidly funny.
It was a little bit, and
Uh,
some of the deleted scenes were a little funny too.
Yeah, yeah, the expanded dialogues, they were funny, like the one with Kyle and Norris when they were insulting each other. It, yeah,
Yeah,
or
and he was like, "Why don't you go first?"
yeah, and I think he called him a sick puppy or something like that.
Yeah, because after he said, "I'm really getting ass fucked by that shit," is like, "You are one sick puppy."
Yeah, yeah, or what else was it?
See, I originally thought that you know, uh, and I guess I was wrong. I originally thought that um, the guy who played Desmond was in X-Men up until this moment because he looks very similar to me to the character who played the guy with the tongue who was more like a frog in the original X-Men movie on the
Oh,
opposite side for some reason. But I look back and it was actually someone totally different. But for the longest time, I thought that he was the same actor as that. I guess I was wrong.
oh, I understand.
So that was it's good that I cleared that up.
Uh, and you know what other scene I found funny? Well, yeah, we mentioned it before, but when Samuel was getting killed and everyone's cell phone rang, and when they all picked up, they all heard Samuel screaming. But at that moment, I couldn't help myself. Imagined the scene from Scary Movie when they were yelling, "What's up?"
I
Uh,
oh yeah. When
yeah,
we were
that
watching the movie, I went along with you because I remembered that part.
yeah, yeah. Well, if it wasn't for Scary Movie, then the scene of Samuel's death probably wouldn't be very funny. But
Scary movie is definitely quotable. To be honest,
yeah.
but in any case, so I guess one of my favorite scenes. I mean, I mentioned some comical scenes, but my favorite, one of my favorite scenes is the part where the Asian chick she comes out of the that hall. Doctor Bandicoot comes up to her, takes the blade out, and he goes,
Oh,
and
oh, her
the whole
face
face
comes off.
comes completely off, and
Uh,
then she just faints because of that.
y-
So, or
yeah, you never
evidently
see her again. Uh,
dies.
yeah. Oh, but yeah, one scene that I really liked that wasn't humorous was actually the one with the Asian girl and the ghost women. That was, well, I mentioned it before, but yeah, that was one of my favorite scenes because at first it was sexy and then suddenly it became terrifying.
Right. That was a good scene. I mean, uh, they always got to bring some kind of element of that into a film.
Yeah.
But in any case, let's see. Let's talk about the music in here. Did you notice any music?
I think there was a song, yeah, but I can't remember what it's called.
Oh, let's see. The music was done by Frederick Weidman, and let's see. It looks like he's done stuff in acts of. He was the composer in acts of. Oh, okay. He's actually done a lot of stuff. Let's see, Locust of the Apocalypse short film. Okay, so he did a bunch of short films in the very beginning. But his okay, so the first film that he is known for was MTV's Beneath, which was directed by Dagon Merrill in 2007, and I don't know whether that came before or after this, but I guess there's a movie called Blood Ranch, which I have. I have not watched it, um, but it was directed by Corbin Timbrook. He did the music behind that film. I know I have it. uh, The Hills Run Red, which is another horror film that I have. Cirrus in 2010. Mirrors 2, the sequel to Mirrors. Let's see what else. Um, yeah, he's done a lot of things.
Who?
Let's see, Bad Actress, Hellraiser Revelations, which was the first film that did not have Doug in it as Hellraiser. Let's see, Ecstasy, A Holiday Heist, Hostel Part 3, Black Box, Lake Placid, The Final Chapter, Green Lantern, the animated series, Justice
Who?
League, The Flashpoint Paradox, let's see, The Damned, let's see, Jarhead 2, Field of Fire, Beware the Batman, TV series, Sniper Legacy, Justice League, Throne of Atlantis,
Oh,
Batman
wow.
versus Robin, Justice League, God and Monsters Chronicles, uh, Justice League Gods and Monsters, Tremors 5, Bloodlines, Batman Bad Blood, Jarhead 3, Justice
Ooh,
League versus Teen Titans, Never Back Down, No Surrender from 2016, Sniper Ghost Shooter, It Watches, Vengeance a Love Story, Teen Titans, The Judas Contract, Sniper Ultimate Kill, Day of the Dead Bloodline, uh,
oh,
Batman Gotham by Gaslight, Tremors A
whoa,
Cold Day in Hell, Tales from the Hood 2, The Death of Superman, Mission Force, the TV series, Death Race 4 Beyond Anarchy, Scorpion King Book of Souls, let's see, Reign of Superman, The Car Road to Revenge,
wow, he really did a lot.
Yeah, he did. Doom Annihilation, Wonder Woman Bloodlines, Dragon Prince, Bulletproof 2, Superman Red Sun, Justice League Dark, Apocalypse War. And I guess he's doing Tales from the Hood 3. Um, he's doing the music to Tremors Island Fury. Um, and a movie called Devour, Alone, Unicorn, Women as Losers, Occupation Rainfall, and Her Coming. So yeah, these are some of these are a lot of the things that he's done composing wise. He's composed the music behind them. So,
Wow.
um, but in any case, yeah. Other than that, did you have anything else that you wanted to talk about this film?
Phew, I'm not sure. We uh, we have really uh, discussed a lot about it. I'm not sure if there was something else I wanted to say.
What do you notice that's different about this statue that's different than the one that you have?
Well, they're actually pretty much nothing alike. The one I have is the usual Baphomet statue based on Eliphas Levi's drawing. Again, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing the artist's name correctly, but yeah, it's the usual Baphomet statue that looks like uh, mm, mm, a man with female breasts and a goat's head sitting on a globe and with one hand down, one hand up, and so on. And
And this one,
and the one in the movie was completely something else, something. I don't even know what it was.
it looked like something like Buddha or something like that.
Oh, oh, good point. Yeah.
It could have been a variation of a Buddha. We don't know. And
Yeah. Uh, Yeah, I actually wonder if there is any article online or something about it. It's interesting.
oh yeah, most definitely. Well, in any case, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to our uh, wonderful chatter here about this particular horror film. Hopefully, you enjoyed our discussion. Again, these were just our thoughts and ramblings on the subject, and our musings, so to speak, because we were following, from one film to another. Now, I think that's all the time that we have for today, folks. But next week, I was thinking of going on about the original The Haunting, and then the remake of The Haunting the following week, so that we could discuss those particular films. Um,
Sounds good to me.
And compare the differences between the two. it's kind of funny because I actually picked up the original book that was put out by Shirley Jackson in the 1950s on the subject. So I may have to start reading the book maybe ahead of time or something like that. So uh, I mean, I'm not sure how fast I'll be, but I did definitely start to read it. I've never read it before just to see the differences. Wouldn't mind seeing if I could get halfway through, but I don't think I'll have that much time.
I understand.
This next Sunday, I'll definitely be spending the 4th of July with my folks. What about you?
Oh, oh yeah, yeah. Well, here in Croatia, we don't really celebrate the 4th of July. We have some other national holidays, but yeah, I know the 4th of July is pretty big in your country, and I hope you have a great time.
Oh, as much as we can. They're supposedly putting last year's fireworks up, so that will be enjoyable. Yay!
Oh,
Not really. I don't really want to see last year's. I want to see this year's, but thanks to COVID,
uh, yeah,
it's gonna be recorded and nobody will be able to gather. So,
yeah. That's really sad. A
but
lot of things were canceled or postponed because of it, and
oh yeah. But in any case, that's neither here nor there. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. Definitely look out for our um, next cool discussion. I think we're going to have some fun. Going. I mean, some of these that I'm going on and talking about with Boris here, I may have talked about with my podcast, but we're two different people, and this I enjoy talking films with my friend here. So, and
thank you.
I think you have some very good things to add to the discussions. So,
Oh, well, thank you. I'm glad if you feel that way.
well, we each have our unique perspective, and I mean, I know that there are some things that sometimes you need help of understanding sometimes, but sometimes discussing them with someone else
Uh,
helps. And if you like talking a lot about movies like I do, I have no problem talking about
well,
anything.
yeah, as I mentioned in some of our previous discussions, sometimes I do struggle to understand because English is not my first language, and we sometimes watch movies without subtitles, so sometimes I struggle to distinguish the dialogue lines, and that
But you
sometimes
know what?
makes.
With our discussions, I think your English gets better. So,
Well, actually, yeah, I noticed that. I think I stammer now much less than I was when we were just starting.
I think what you had was more of a confidence level. You weren't confident in your how you spoke things, and hearing the way I speak things sometimes, think sometimes I mean, if you're around people long enough, you do start sometimes talking like them or things of that nature. So I mean,
Mm.
I'm sure some of my personality sometimes comes off on your personality. So,
Well, could be. And also, I think it also has to do with experience because before we were doing these video chats, I didn't often have an opportunity to speak English like this. I was usually just typing it, not speaking it. And yeah, I guess
very
this
true.
helped me become more fluent.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Alrighty, man. Well, I appreciate your time to come on about this. I know it took us like almost a whole week just to do it, but we struggled together, and I appreciate being able to go on about it, and we'll be able to go on with the next movie. So uh, the original The Haunting, and then the remake of The Haunting, and then we'll see where we're at there, and maybe we'll go and do one scary movie or something like that before. Well, one Scream movie.
Oh, those are good.
One Scream movie. We'll do the original Scream movie, and then we'll do scary movie. Oh wait, no, no. What we will, I know what we will do. I know which ones that will, but we'll accomplish them. There are a few more movies that I want us to see and discuss before we go into scary movie.
Okay.
So, but they're pivotal films, and I think you'll enjoy them as well. Some of them I thought were the same director as some other ones, but in any case, so thank you for listening. Have a great day, evening, or morning, wherever you are, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, thank you all.
And hopefully you just check out this film. Give it a go. I mean, if you think about it as a standalone, it's a standalone film in the same universe of the 1999 House on a Haunted Hill. You might be able to enjoy it, and the humor is actually not that bad. I mean, the acting isn't that bad either.
Yeah.
So, in any case, thank you so much and enjoy.